What's up guys, Vital Syntax here, and I want to talk about the Steam box, specifically the Piston from Xi3. But before I do that, I want to clear up some confusion about the Steam box name as a whole. So essentially what Valve is doing is they're licensing the name Steam box, and any manufacturer, any hardware manufacturer can create their own Steam box, and as long as they meet the specifications that are set by Valve to meet the Steam box name, they can sell their gaming computer as a Steam box. Now I don't know exactly what those specifications are, but some of the ones I can guess is that it has to be a certain form factor, it has to be a certain size and weight, it has to be a certain modularity so it's upgradable in a certain way, it probably has to support a proprietary, or maybe it's not proprietary, it might just be a USB or Bluetooth official Steam or Valve controller that hopefully will be released, and it probably has to support Linux, supports run Steam, might even have to meet a minimum spec for processing power or storage space, graphics power, things like that. And I don't know if Valve has released those yet, but I'm sure if you were a hardware manufacturer, you could get your hands on those and build your Steam box to those specifications. This is essentially the same thing that Intel does with their Ultrabooks, and an Ultrabook is essentially a laptop with a license name from Intel, and an Ultrabook has to be a certain width, has to be a certain thickness, it has to have a certain battery life, it has to have a certain processing power, it has to have, I think, at least one high-speed connection, whether that's a USB 3 port or a Thunderbolt port, and anybody can build an Ultrabook laptop. Dell might build one, Sony might build one, Asus might build one. As long as they meet the specifications that are set by Intel, they can sell their product as an Ultrabook, and that's essentially the same thing that Valve's doing with the Steam box. Now, back to Xi3 and their Piston computer. They just released the price point, which is about $1,000. Right now, if you pre-order it, it's going to be $900, but once the pre-order is over, then it'll be, its normal $1,000 price point. Now let's also talk about the specifications. So the default configuration has a 128 gigabyte SSD, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and a 3.2 gigahertz quad-core processor. Now you can also upgrade to a 250 gigabyte SSD for an extra $340, and you can also upgrade to a 512 gigabyte SSD for an extra $750. Now, before I get into some opinions and things like that, I want to just say that the price point for this seems very high. $1,000 for a very small form factor PC like this that's trying to compete with next generation of consoles, specifically obviously the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox 720, which are probably going to be priced between the $400 and $600 price point, and these are coming out at the same time. I mean, this is going to be sold for Christmas or holiday season of 2013, which is the same period that the Xbox 720 and the PS4 are being sold at. And if they're going to try and compete with the next generation of consoles, I think they need a much more competitive price point, and I think $1,000 is a little bit too high. And on top of that, I mean, if you go and add the 500 gigabyte SSD, you're going to be charged an extra $750. That seems way over the top. I mean, you can go out and buy a 512 gigabyte SSD yourself and just upgrade it yourself from you can get an 840 Pro, I think, from Samsung for around $500, maybe even less than $500, and that's a really good high-end SSD. It's one of the best ones you can get nowadays, but they're charging you over $250 extra for some reason to get that option, which sounds kind of weird. And overall, I think only having a 8 gigabytes of RAM, 120 gigabytes of SSD storage, and a 3.2 gigahertz APU, which is a GPU and CPU on the same die, on the same chip, so you don't have a dedicated graphics card. For $1,000, that seems very high. To put that in perspective, I mean, I think you could easily build a gaming PC for under $1,000, or let's just say $1,000, and you would get way more for your money. I mean, you could get a dedicated graphics card, you could get have the option for way more expandability, things like sound cards, network cards, way more room for more internal storage if you wanted to add extra hard drives, extra SSDs, if you wanted to add Blu-ray readers and writers or DVD readers and writers. There's so much more expandability with a gaming PC, and I mean, you can build a reasonably quiet, a reasonably small media PC that you can hook up to your TV. I mean, that's what the Xi3 Piston and Steambox in general is targeting, is your living room, just like the gaming consoles, next gen gaming consoles are targeting. They want to be plugged into your TV, but I don't know, it's $1,000 just seems kind of a high price point. Now, I'm personally not very excited for this because I think the price point's a little bit too high for what you're getting. And on top of that, I'm going to try and show you guys in this video, or in the gameplay of, it's probably Battlefield 3 gameplay, I don't really know because I'm doing the editing afterward, but I'll try and throw in some video or screenshots of the user interface that they're using with the Piston. It doesn't look too good. It doesn't look like absolute crap, but it looks very, very basic. And I would much rather have, Windows or even Mac. I mean, you can install Mac OS X if you want if you have the right motherboard, you do some tweaking and you have the right components that are compatible. Or even you could run Ubuntu or any distro of Linux that you wanted, or any other operating system that you wanted off of. And I'm not sure if that's limited on the Piston. You might be able to install Windows on this machine as well. I haven't read anything about that yet. But I think that for me, it's not really something that's very interesting. I am very excited for Steam boxes in general, but I'm more excited for their competitors, the competitors of Xi3. I'm excited to see what Asus does with this, what MSI or what Gigabyte can do with the Steam box name. Now, I don't know if those companies are indeed working on a Steam box, but they are all, graphics card manufacturers, motherboard manufacturers. I mean, those are really the two key components to making a Steam box. I mean, you don't have to be a designer of a CPU or anything. So I think that in the future, once more competitors are starting to release Steam box, if they do, which I really hope that they do, then that'd be awesome, because I am really excited to have more PC gamers, or more like Steam players. I mean, I guess you can't really call a Steam box necessarily a gaming PC. It's kind of blurring the lines though, because yeah, you're going to be playing with Steam, so you're going to be playing with other PC gamers, but I don't know, where's that line drawn? I mean, if you have a really, really low-end Steam box that has, an APU, which essentially is a CPU and GPU, it's not really in the same category as a gaming PC, which I kind of think of as a higher end system that has a dedicated graphics card that's running the latest games at least 1080p at 60 or 30 frames per second. And that might be possible. There are no benchmarks out for the Piston. Obviously, it's not being sold yet. But I am kind of interested to see how this thing performs. Especially how it performs in comparison to the next generation of consoles. I mean, if you're spending $1,000 and you're only able to run, for example, Battlefield 3, which is the example I almost always go with, just because I have a good idea of how it performs on most GPUs and configurations and benchmarks. I mean, if you're only getting like 15 frames at 1080p on low, which I'm not saying that's going to be the performance of this thing, but if it's something that as bad performing as that, and you're paying $1,000, then that's a horrible purchase. But if it can hold its own, if it can run these modern games at decent frame rates, at higher resolutions, at good graphics settings, then maybe it could be a good contender. But it sounds like for the price point, I would, in my situation, not buy one at all. But if I was in I think most people's situation, I'd probably go for the next generation of consoles, a PS4, an Xbox 720, or just build myself a gaming PC with that $1,000 instead of buying one of these Pistons. But that's my opinion. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the $1,000 Xi3 Piston Steam box, and what companies you'd like to see release some Steam box in the future. Like I said, for me, I want to see an Asus, a Gigabyte, or an MSI one. Those are kind of the three companies that I think would be that could do a really good job with the Steam box design and implementation and stuff like that. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you guys in the next video.